My girlfriend Jess and I were always the adventurous type, the kind of people who'd rather get lost in the woods than spend a weekend in the city. That's why last October, we decided to hike this supposedly haunted trail deep in the Blackwood Forest. Locals warned us about disappearances there over the years, but we laughed it off. Ghost stories, right? The trail was overgrown, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and pine, and the only sound were our footsteps and the occasional rustle of something unseen in the bushes. We'd been walking for about an hour when Jess stopped dead in her tracks. "Look at this," she whispered, her voice tight. A massive oak tree stood slightly off the path, its bark covered in deep, jagged carvings, names. Dozens of them, some so old they nearly healed over, others fresh enough that the sap still glistened. At first, we thought it was just some dumb teenage ritual, initiations or love declarations. But then Jess ran her fingers over one of the names and froze. "I know this name," she said. "Sarah Milligan. She was that college student who went missing here like 5 years ago." My stomach dropped. I checked another, Daniel Reyes, a hiker who vanished 2 summers back. The deeper we looked, the more we recognized names from news reports. People who'd walked into this forest and never walked out. Then we noticed something worse. The trees ahead, spaced just far enough apart to be deliberate, each had more names carved into them, as if someone or something was guiding us deeper in. Jess grabbed my arm. "We should turn back," she said. But curiosity had its claws in me. "Just one more," I said. Big mistake that we followed the trail of marked trees, each one more unsettling than the last. The carvings weren't just names. They had dates beside them, all within the past decade, all matching the disappearances we'd heard about. The forest grew quieter the deeper we went, like even the birds knew to stay away. My skin prickled, but I kept telling myself there had to be a logical explanation. Maybe some morbid historian was documenting the tragedies, or a park ranger's twisted memorial. Then Jess gasped. Up ahead, a younger tree stood isolated, its bark almost entirely covered in fresh, deep gouges. My pulse hammered as we stepped closer. The names were still wet with sap, as if carved minutes before we arrived. That's when I saw it. At the very bottom of the tree, in the same jagged script as the others, Mark and Jessica. And below our names, today's date. My blood turned to ice. Jess let out a choked sound, her nails digging into my arm. "This isn't funny," she whispered, her voice shaking. I wanted to believe it was a prank, but we hadn't told anyone we were coming here. No one knew we'd even picked this trail. The air felt heavier, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Then, from somewhere behind us, a branch snapped. Not the random crack of nature, something deliberate, something moving toward us. Jess didn't wait. She yanked me backward, and we sprinted back the way we came, but the trail didn't look right anymore. Branches seemed to twist in ways I didn't remember, and the sunlight barely pierced the canopy now, casting everything in an eerie twilight. My lungs burned, but the sound of footsteps behind us kept me moving. Not running, stalking, slow, deliberate. Jess sobbed beside me, her breath coming in ragged gasps. I risked a glance back and caught a flicker of movement between the trees, something tall, too thin to be human, its outline warping like heat haze. My stomach lurched. I'd never believed in monsters before, but whatever was following us didn't belong in this world. Then Jess tripped. She went down hard, her knee slamming into a gnarled root. I hauled her up, but she winced, limping. "Go," she begged. "Just go." I wasn't leaving her. The footsteps stopped. Silence. The forest held its breath. That was worse. I pulled Jess close, scanning the trees. A whisper brushed against my ear. No words, just static, like a radio tune between stations. My vision blurred for a second, and when it cleared, the trees ahead were different. The names weren't carved anymore. They were bleeding. Dark streaks of sap oozed from the letters, thick as syrup. Just made a sound like a wounded animal. "It's changing things," she breathed. The air smelled metallic now, like old pennies in wet soil, and the whispers grew louder, murmurs in a language that slithered between words. My head throbbed, my thoughts turning sluggish, as if the forest was pressing into my skull. Jess clutched my jacket, her fingers trembling. "We have to get out before dark," she said, but the sun was already sinking too fast, shadows stretching toward us like hands. Then I noticed the trees were shifting, not swaying, moving. Their roots slithered under the fallen leaves, their branches creaking as they bent toward us. A low, grinding noise filled the air, like with splintering from the inside out, that I grabbed Jess's hand and bolted off the trail, crashing through underbrush, thorns tearing at our clothes. The forest fought back. Branches snagged our arms. Roots seemed to rise just enough to trip us. Behind us, the whispers erupted into laughter, high and broken, echoing from everywhere at once. My vision blurred again, and for a second, I saw them. Figures standing between the trees, their bodies too long, their faces smooth and blank. Then they were gone. Jess screamed as something grabbed her ankle. I turned, ready to kick at it, but there was nothing there. Just a forest. Watching, waiting. The trees around us started humming, a deep, vibrating sound that made my teeth ache. Jess was hyperventilating, her eyes wild. "We're going in circles," she choked out. I realized she was right. The same carved tree kept reappearing, our names now dripping black. My phone had no signal, the compass app spinning uselessly. Then the whispers formed words, "Stay. Stay with us." The voice didn't come from any direction. It came from inside, like my own thoughts had been invaded. Jess suddenly went rigid. "Mark," she whispered, staring past me. I turned slowly. There, between two oaks, hung dozens of frayed ropes, some old and rotting, others shockingly new. Each noose swayed gently in the non-existent wind. Empty, waiting, just made a broken sound and grabbed my face. "Don't look at them," she begged, tears cutting through the dirt on her cheeks. But it was too late. The ropes twitched, as if invisible necks had just snapped inside them. My legs gave out. I dragged us behind a fallen log, clutching Jess like she might dissolve. The humming grew louder, the trees trembling now. Then silence. Complete. The forest went preternaturally still. I held my breath. That's when we heard the first snip, like garden shears. Then another snip. Snip. Snip, getting closer. The snips sounds were methodical, rhythmic, like someone trimming hedges. But there was nothing there. Just the empty forest and those damn nooses swaying slightly, as if something had just passed through them. Jess dug her fingers into my arm, hard enough to bruise. "We have to run now," she mouthed. I nodded, but my body felt leaden, like the forest itself was weighing me down. Then I saw it, a shadow flickering between the trees, holding something long and glinting. Not shears, not a carving knife. The figure moved wrong. Not walking, shifting. 1 second it was 20 feet away, the next it was right at the edge of my vision, its face a blur of bark-like wrinkles and hollows where I should be. It dragged the knife along a tree trunk, scritch-scratch, adding a new name to the collection. My breath hitched. It hadn't seen us yet. Jess yanked me backward, just as its head snapped toward the sound. We ran like hellfire was at our heels. Branches whipped at us, the forest screaming in our ears. Not wind, not animals, but voices howling in rage. The trail spat us out, so suddenly we tumbled onto the gravel parking lot, gasping. Dawn was breaking. Our car sat untouched, dew glistening on the hood like nothing had happened. But something had, because when I checked my phone, the date had changed that we'd only been in there an hour. Yet Jess's knees were caked in dry blood, and clutched in my fist was a strip of bark, freshly carved with 2 names. Not ours, the next one's. My name's Jackson, and up until last week, I thought my friend Liam was just another solo hiking influencer. The kind of guy who chased waterfalls at 4 a.m. for the perfect shot. We'd known each other since college, and even though his channel blew up over the last 2 years, he never changed. Always the same goofy grin, the same beat-up backpack, the same habit of sending me GPS pins just in case. That's why when he didn't check in after 3 days on Mount Blackwood, I didn't panic. Not at first. Liam was meticulous, always packing extra batteries, a satellite phone, even a damn emergency flare. But when his sister called me, voice cracking, saying search and rescue found his campsite abandoned, that's when I logged into his cloud backup. And that's when I realized Liam hadn't just gotten lost. Something had been watching him. The first few photos were normal. Liam's usual sunrise shots, mist curling over the pines, his coffee steaming in frame. But then I noticed it. In the corner of a selfie near Dead Man's Creek, there was a shape. Just a blur at first, like a smudge on the lens. I zoomed in. It was tall. Too tall, with this unnatural lean, like it was peering around a tree trunk without moving. My stomach dropped. I scrolled faster. The next video was worse. Liam laughing as he crossed a river, but in the background between the trees, something kept pace. Not an animal, It moved upright in jagged stops and starts, like it was syncing with Liam's steps. The timestamp showed it was filmed hours before his last call. The final photo? A selfie at his campsite. Liam's smile was strained, his eyes wide. And right behind him, clear as day, a figure, pale, elongated fingers resting on his shoulder. But here's the thing. Liam's caption read, "Total solitude. No one for miles." I called Liam's sister, Mara, and his girlfriend, Elise, over immediately. None of us spoke at first, just huddled around my laptop, staring at that thing behind Liam. Elise kept whispering, "This isn't a joke, right? He wouldn't do this as a joke." But we all knew Liam. He wasn't the type for creepy AR filters or stage horror content. His channel was raw trails and bad puns, not this. Then Mara pointed something out. Look at the timestamps. The photos with the figure were all taken after sunset. Every single one. Even the video by the river. It was golden hour, but the woods behind him were already dark. And in each shot, the thing got closer. At first, it was just a shadow in the tree line. Then halfway up the trail, it was peeking from behind a boulder. By the campsite, it was touching him. Elise started crying. I felt like I was in a puke. We dug deeper. Liam's last video was the worst. It was only 12 seconds long, shaky, like he'd fumbled to turn the camera on. No face, just his boots crunching over leaves, his breath ragged. Then a sound. Not an animal, not the wind. A whisper, too garbled to make out, but human. Or almost human. Right before the clip cut off, the camera tilted up, catching the trees. And there, between the branches, were these ribbons. Dozens of them, tied in knots, fluttering like they'd been there for years. None of us recognized them from Liam's other hikes. Then Elise froze. "Go back," she said. I replayed it. That's when we saw it. A hand, bone white, gripping a ribbon. Not tying it, unraveling it, that we couldn't just sit there. Mara insisted we take everything to the police, but Elise was already pulling up Liam's last GPS coordinates on her phone. "It's only a 2-hour drive," she said, voice tight. "We have to go. What if he's still out there?" I knew it was a bad idea. The cops had already combed the area, and the search teams found nothing. No torn gear, no blood, not even a drop water bottle. But the GPS pin was specific. A spot about half a mile off the main trail, near a place called Hollows Overlook. I'd never heard Liam mention it before. While Elise packed supplies, I kept scrolling through the cloud files, hoping for answers. That's when I found the audio recordings. The first few were normal. Liam narrating his hike, the crunch of his boots, birdsong. But the last one, God, it started with heavy breathing like he was running. Then a thud, like he'd dropped the recorder. For 10 solid seconds, there was nothing but rustling leaves. Then, clear as day, a voice, not Liam's, hissed, "You're not supposed to be here." The recording cut off with a scream. Not a human scream. Something warped, like a distorted animal. My hand was shaking so bad, I almost dropped my phone. That's when Elise grabbed my arm. "Jake," she whispered, pointing at the screen. The GPS location had changed. Liam's last pin was now updating in real time, moving deeper into the woods that we drove in silence. The GPS leading us further into the mountains as the sun dipped below the tree line. The road turned to gravel, then to dirt, until finally, Elise's SUV couldn't go any further. We got out, flashlights in hand, the cold air biting at our faces. The forest here was different, older. The trees grew twisted, their branches tangled like skeletal fingers. My phone had no signal, but Liam's GPS kept pinging, drawing us deeper. Every rustle in the underbrush made us freeze. Then Mara gasped. Tied to a low-hanging branch was one of those ribbons from the video, frayed and stained, fluttering in the wind. It wasn't just one. As we moved forward, we saw them everywhere, marking a path, a trail. The GPS led us to a clearing, a small, rocky outcrop where the trees opened up to reveal the night sky. In the center stood a single, gnarled oak, its trunk covered in carvings. Names, dates. Some were so old, they nearly faded into the bark. My blood ran cold. Liam's name was there, freshly etched, the wood still raw. Before I could say anything, Elise's flashlight flickered. Then the whispers started, not from one direction, but everywhere, hissing between the leaves, skittering over the rocks. We backed up, our breaths coming in panicked bursts. That's when we saw them. Figures, pale and too thin, slipping between the trees. Watching, waiting. The last thing I remember is Mara screaming as the flashlight died, plunging us into darkness that I don't know how we made it back to the car. One moment we were running blind, branches clawing at our clothes, and the next, we were tumbling onto the dirt road, the headlights of Elise's SUV blinding us. No one spoke on the drive back. We didn't need to. Whatever took Liam was still out there. The police called us the next day. They found Liam's camera, abandoned near Hollow's Overlook. The last photo on it was a blur, as if it had been dropped, but if you looked closely, you could see them. Dozens of those things standing in a circle. And in the center, Liam's backpack, left open. Empty, that we never went back. The official report said Liam got lost, that he likely fell somewhere they couldn't reach. But we knew the truth. Sometimes at night, I check his old GPS app. The pin's still there, unmoving, deep in the woods. And just once, I swear I saw it update, just for a second before disappearing again. I don't hike anymore, and I never, ever go out after dark. My name's Jake, and this happened last October during what was supposed to be a chill weekend backpacking trip through Black Ridge Reserve. Me, my girlfriend Lena, and our friends Dev and Priya had done this before. We weren't experts, but we knew enough to avoid dumb mistakes. Or so we thought. The forest was dense but peaceful, all golden hour light filtering through the pines, and we were laughing about some stupid podcast Dev kept quoting. Then, around mile 5, Priya suddenly froze. Did you guys just hear that? At first, I thought she was messing with us. But then I heard it too. My own voice, my exact words, repeated back half a second later, but warped like a corrupted audio file. The tone was off too. Slower, hungrier. We all went dead silent. And that's when the forest echoed it again. Oh, you guys just hear that? Dev, the joker of the group, tried to play it off. Yo, Forrest, quit stealing my bit, he shouted, forcing a laugh. The trees threw his voice right back, but this time, the delay was longer. 5 seconds, then 10, and the pitch. God, the pitch was all wrong, like something had chewed on the sound. Lena grabbed my arm, her nails digging in. That's not an echo, she whispered. The underbrush rustled ahead, and for a second, I swore I saw movement, something tall and just the wrong shape. Priya suggested turning back, but Dev, stubborn as always, insisted we push forward. Probably just some weird acoustics, he said. But when he turned to walk ahead, his boot crunched on something. A phone. His phone. The one he'd been holding minutes ago. Only now, the screen was cracked and covered in a handprint that wasn't his. Dev picked up the phone like it was a live grenade, his smirk gone. The handprint was too big, the fingers splayed at unnatural angles like whoever, or whatever, had dropped it had too many joints. Okay, what the fuck, he muttered, wiping the screen on his shirt like he could erase the violation of it. That's when the whispers started. Not from the trees, not from the wind, from us. Fragments of our own conversations, things we'd said hours ago, looping in fractured snippets just beyond the trail. Think we're lost. Priya's voice, but gasping. Just keep moving, me but choke like I've been running. Lena's breath hitched. It's learning, she said, and that word, learning, sat in my gut like a rock. The sun was dipping now, long shadows stretching toward us like fingers that we booked it back the way we'd come, but the trail didn't match up. Landmarks were off. A boulder that should have been on our left was now on the right. The creek we'd crossed was suddenly bone dry. Then Dev, leading the charge, skidded to a stop so fast I slammed into him. There, in the middle of the path, stood a figure. Tall, thin, wearing Dev's exact outfit. Same stupid, I paused my game for this. Shirt, same scuffed hiking boots. But its posture was all wrong. Shoulders hunched too high, neck craned at a broken angle. And its face, Jesus. Its face was like a wax statue of Dev left in the sun too long. Features smudged and not quite where they should be. It didn't move, didn't blink, just stared with empty, glassy eyes. Behind us, the whispers rose to a crescendo, run, 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 in all our voices at once. For a heartbeat, nobody moved. Then the thing that looked like Dev smiled, too wide, lips splitting in a way human skin shouldn't. That's when Priya screamed, and the forest answered. The trees shook like something massive was barreling through them, branches snapping in a wave toward us. We bolted off the trail, crashing through underbrush, the thing's laughter, Dev's laugh, but wet, gurgling, chasing us. My lungs burned, but the worst part was the voices. Our voices, now whispering from everywhere at once, overlapping, taunting. You're going the wrong way. It's right behind you. Lena tripped, and when I yanked her up, her wrist was ice cold, her pulse rabbit fast. That wasn't Dev, she panted, but it knew him. It knew us. Ahead, the tree line thinned, a clearing. Safety or a trap? We didn't have a choice. The clearing was all wrong. The grass was too pale, too still, like it had been pressed under glass. And in the center stood 3 more figures. One was Lena, but her hair was stringy with mud, her mouth sewn shut with what looked like fishing line. Another was Priya, except her eyes were just gone, hollow sockets dripping black. The third was me, same jacket, same scar on my chin, but its hands were too long, fingers twitching like spider legs. The real Priya made a sound like a wounded animal. The fake me tilted its head, and when it spoke, my voice came out in a broken stutter. Why you shouldn't have seen come back. Behind us, the dev thing stepped into the clearing, its joints popping with every step. The whispers rose to a roar, and the trees began to close in. The air smelled like ozone and something rotten, like a storm had rolled in over dead meat. Fake Lena raised her hands, and the real Lena gasped. Her wrists were bleeding where the thing's nails had dug in moments ago, even though it hadn't touched her. It's mirroring us, Dev whispered, voice cracking. But it's lagging, like it's catching up. The me thing took a jerky step forward, and my own legs ached in response, muscles locking like puppet strings were yanking them. That's when I realized every time one of them moved, one of us felt it. Priya was hyperventilating, clawing at her face like she could scrub away the empty-eyed version of herself. The trees groaned, branches knitting together into a cage. We were being sealed in. Dev grabbed a rock and hurled it at his double. It connected. The thing's head snapped back with a wet crack, but then Dev shrieked, clutching his own temple. Blood seeped between his fingers. "Don't hurt them," Lena yelled. The rules were clear now. Whatever happened to them, happened to us. The copies knew it too. My doppelganger grinned, slow and deliberate, then dragged a jagged fingernail across its throat. My skin prickled, a hot line of pain blooming where it would have cut. We were fucked. Unless, run, I choked out. Just fucking run. Because if they mirrored us after the fact, maybe, just maybe, we could outpace the lag that we broke for the tree line, but the ground itself fought back, roots snagging our ankles, branches whipping in our faces. The whispers were screams now, our own voices begging, stop, 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 like we'd already lost. Behind us, the copies moved wrong, joints bending backward, lurching after us with terrifying patience. Lena tripped, and her double's leg twisted in unison, bone jutting through skin. She sobbed but kept moving, dragging herself up. The sky was pitch black now, no moon, no stars, just a suffocating dark that made the flashlight beams look sickly. Then Dev pointed ahead, sobbing with relief, a trail marker, the real one. We'd looped back to where we started, but the copies were closing in, their breathing synced to ours, their footsteps just out of rhythm. The moment we crossed the trail marker, the forest went silent. No whispers, no footsteps. We didn't dare look back, just sprinted until our lungs gave out, collapsing onto the gravel parking lot. No one spoke. Dev's head wound was gone. Lena's wrists were smooth. But Priya's phone, the one she'd been filming on, was dead, the screen cracked in a spiderweb pattern. When she finally turned it on, the last video was still there. 17 seconds of us standing in the clearing, staring at nothing. Right before the audio cut out, you could hear it, a voice, not ours, whispering, "Almost got you." We reported a bear encounter to the rangers to explain the ripped gear and our hysterical state. They exchanged looks but didn't push. Back home, the nightmares kept coming. I'd wake up, certain my hands weren't mine, that my reflection would blink a second too late. Priya moved cities. Dev won't hike anymore. And Lena? She won't talk about it, but sometimes I catch her staring at her wrists, rubbing them like they still hurt. Blackridge Reserve closed for maintenance 6 months later. Rumor says a hiker vanished there. No body, just his backpack, contents neatly arranged in a circle. His phone was in the center, playing a loop of his own voice, screaming. I don't know if the forest wanted to replace us, or if we just got too close to something that mimics. But I do know this. If you ever hear your own voice echoing back where it shouldn't, don't answer.